Hello, fairy tale friends. Did you know that this podcast is sponsored by Podbean? Podbean is the easiest way to create your own podcast. We use Podbean to host Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries. You can download the free podcast app to start, record, and publish your very own podcast in minutes. Podbean provides everything you need to run your podcast, and you can record and publish episodes directly from the app on your phone. Download the free Podbean app today. That's Podbean. Head on over to Podbean at www.podbean.com and use the code podcast21 for your first 30 days of podcast hosting for free. Check it out. I'm Tara.
I'm Ryan.
We love Disney movies.
So we decided to watch them all, from Snow White
to Frozen 2 and beyond. Each episode will watch a different Walt Disney Animated Studios film and tell you all about it.
Did we like it? Does it hold up? Who's our favorite hero?
Or villain.
We'll give you history and fun facts about each movie.
And sometimes we'll invite our friends to watch along with us.
So put on your tiara
or your evil crown
and join us on our adventure.
This is Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Hello, fairy tale friends. Welcome to another Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries MiniTale, where today we're talking about 2017's Beauty and the Beast, starring Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, Luke Evans, Josh Gad, Kevin Kline, blah, 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 blah. So many people in this movie.
And this is take 2 for us, listeners.
This is our second go-round on it. We, full disclosure, watched this about 2 days ago and did, to be honest, what I think is a episode befitting of how we felt about this movie, which is to say a wet thud of an episode.
So we thought we'd give it another go.
We're going to give another go, try and muster up a little more energy for a movie that I think we found to be pretty meh.
Yeah.
I wish it was worse so it would be a more interesting episode.
It's a okay movie, but what I will say is we've seen it once in the theater. We saw it in the theater when it came out. I want to say it came out around Thanksgiving or Christmas because we went with your parents.
Yes.
So it was a holiday.
And we wouldn't be caught dead hanging out with them any other time of the year.
That's not true. But yeah, we were there for a holiday and went to see it with them. And
Yes.
I feel like we all came away from it wanting to go watch the animated version.
Do you remember my mother's reaction? Was that her reaction as well?
Yeah, I don't think she loved it or didn't care for it. I think it was middle of the road.
Because my mom is typically just a purist in every. You shouldn't remake anything. You shouldn't.
I don't disagree with her in some respects.
Well,
Mary Poppins, example 1.
That wasn't a remake. That was a sequel.
Well,
but what I've been thinking is coming into this episode, we've been pretty forgiving of a lot of the.
I think you're harsh with saying forgiving. We've genuinely enjoyed the experience of them. I don't think we need to excuse them. I think we've enjoyed them.
I don't know if objectively I would call all of them good movies, but I think we've been very forgiving maybe more thing, but we've been very kind to some of them. And accepting it. And you and me typically like a lot of things. And I think it's for every 20 things we watch, 19 of them were like, I like that. Because it's just so nice to be around you that it extends onto whatever we're watching.
Well, and if you've listened to our animated episode for Beauty and the Beast, I had some conflicted feelings because I was so excited for it. It was just coming off of Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid gave me all these emotions that I wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't connect with Beauty and the Beast in the way I thought I would. So I personally want to go back and rewatch the animated version to just give that one another go because it was a weird viewing for me. But this one...
We will, when our Disney season is finally done, before we move on to something else, we'll have a revisiting Beauty and the Beast, trying to break what I am now calling...
maybe revisiting any other ones that we feel...
I am now referring to this as the Beauty and the Beast curse, because I feel like After
it does feel that way.
Yeah. So
the curse of the rose.
Exactly. We've been rude. We were rude to an enchantress, and she said you will be destined to have issues watching Beauty and the Beast from here on out.
As each petal falls. But let's go into what we enjoyed about it now that you kind of have a little bit of a background of where we're coming from with this one. I will say the opening I thought was super fun. I always watch for the credits, and the castle opening is actually the Beauty and the Beast castle in the movie.
Yes,
so they zoom right into, you go right into the story after you see the castle. And I think that's kind of cool that they did that.
It's also extremely noticeable because that castle, and I talked about this when we watched it. I don't think I talked about it on take one. But it's got very interesting asymmetrical design.
Yes.
It's when the castle, because I feel like they've done this castle is a little different, but they tend to all kind of look like the Sleeping Beauty castle or the Disney Star castle. And this one is, everything seems, if I remember correctly, is off to the right. And
and it's like sweeping almost with some of the architecture. I'm sure there's a technical name for that.
And it zooms way out like it would to say Walt Disney Pictures, and it keeps zooming, and you see a little rose around like a fence, and then it zooms back in. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into this scene of them like putting all this makeup on who I believe there was a thing where they were talking about this prince's name. Is it Prince Adam, or is it just the Beast? Like, does he have a name?
I'm going to look it up. Prince Adam sounds
Prince
right?
Adam is He-Man's alter ego.
Well, that sounds right to me,
yes.
But I am not sure, so I will look it up real quick.
And I liked that they really played up the French aristocracy of it all. And everyone is kind of like, even when they all come back, they all look super made up with makeup. And he and the little fake beauty mark dot, and the very, very pale chalky what's it called, powder, the face powder of the French aristocracy. At the same time, they then go into them just kind of dancing around. I think we talked about this with where the end of the movie kind of wants to have it both ways, where it's like they make it very clear this is French aristocracy, but then at the end, everybody who's not the prince is like part of the proletariat, the French, the general townspeople. So I'm like, well, who was at this party? Does he just throw parties and make all his servants dress up as if they're his friends, or what's the situation here?
Yeah, well, and what's interesting, we were trying to focus on what we enjoyed, but what I will say, I think we both will need to remind each other of that, is it's interesting because at the end too, when all of the villagers come to kind of celebrate, they all, the castle is back to its former glory. We find out Mr. Potts for some reason wasn't in the castle when they were all changed. And they reunite, which I think is kind of an interesting twist, but I don't know that we needed it.
I like the idea that maybe Mrs. Potts is like, listen, you're a woodcutter. This is what you do. It's in the thing. I would like to have a separate job in the castle. So they have very different, maybe their finances are split. They're a very progressive couple for 1700s France. They're doing that sort of thing.
All right. So there's a lot here.
Yes, because I don't think he has a name in the animated version.
So he's not referred to a name. He's never called by name, just Master and Beast. But Adam is what a lot of Disney sites and people refer to him as. I'm on a website called Screen Rant. Didn't know that existed.
I've heard of Screen Rant.
And so it goes into a huge deep dive. So I'm not going to read it all because we're currently recording here. But apparently there's a plaque in Walt Disney World's Port of Orleans Riverside Royal Rooms that states his name is Adam. So it goes deep that people refer to him as Adam, even though he's credited, I believe, as Beast in the animated version. And I'm not sure that they ever say his name in this one.
No, they
either.
don't.
So,
because I think I read somewhere that everyone, Josh Gad, was like, no, his name's Vincent. They were making up names for him.
Yeah.
We'll get into Josh Gad in a little bit. The next thing, what's the next thing that you like
well,
about this?
The other thing that we made a note of is there is a little bit of a multicultural cast.
Yes.
So that was something that we just always like to point out. Something else that you really enjoyed in the song, I almost called it Bonjour, in the song Bonjour, in the song Belle.
Bonjour.
You really appreciated that when she went to the bookseller, he wasn't a bookseller.
Yes.
It looked like it was a library within the church of the village, and he was dusting, and it was clear that not many villagers come in to borrow books.
Yes, it felt like a personal collection she was borrowing from.
And Ryan has a real sticking point with that. You can go back and listen to our animated episode if you're curious what that is about. We also liked that Belle is the inventor. So in the original, it's Maurice, it's her father who is the inventor, and he's going to, I don't know that he says a market in the animated version, but it seems like he's going to present his invention to a group of people, whereas in this one, he is more a tinkerer, and it looks like he makes music boxes and very like elaborate and intricate, very detailed items, and he's selling them at a market somewhere.
A convention of all the fathers of odd, precocious girls and villages across Europe. Like there's like the German version, and it's all the fairy tale dads getting together.
It sounds like maybe he's going to a larger city to sell his goods, essentially. So it's a little bit different in this one.
Yes.
Versus the original. But we both enjoyed that not only is Belle headstrong, not only is she book smart, she's apparently the only woman in the town who can read. We find that out when she tries to teach a little girl to read, and the schoolmaster says one is enough, which didn't love that line. But,
well, also, like, what's your job, buddy? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like,
apparently he's just teaching little boys, yes. I guess.
Oh, maybe. I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking like he was just like, I don't like working, so don't teach her because then I have to do my
I guess
job.
a lot of people in the town are illiterate because LeFou makes a point that in the song that he's illiterate, in the song Gaston. But we liked that she's an inventor, and you see that in a moment. She wants to do the laundry, but she also wants to read. So she figures out a way that the horse or the mule can kind of move the laundry around to do it for her.
Yes, does this thing in a barrel. So there's two things I wanted to kind of point out here, two little facts. One, when she's talking to her father and he's working on the music boxes, there is a music box shaped like a carriage where there's two figures on top and they're dressed like, the Beauty and the Beast in the ballroom scene. And the other thing I want to point out, I can't quite remember. Oh, you'll notice in this movie she has boots instead of flats, and that was apparently a decision from Emma Watson. Like she's like if this is the kind of woman she is and this is what she does all the time, the first thing she would lose is these flats.
Yeah.
She'd wear these strong boots that she could walk around and do all this stuff in. I'm a big fan of Emma Watson, particularly as a activist and advocate of women. And I think she had some interesting choices on this. She also, I read she refused, she didn't want to wear a corset. Like that was something, she's like, I don't want a corset.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to do that. And I thought that was kind of,
her.
Yeah.
That sounded rude, but truly good for her.
No, that was an earnest good for her.
So I will say, looking at my notes, that's about it.
Oh, no. Okay. No, maybe in your notes, but we talked about the things we liked because we did I liked LeFou and Gaston.
Yes. So we did. I will say from my notes, I didn't have anything else that I jotted down while we were watching it, but we did like the relationship between LeFou and Gaston. You had mentioned that there's potentially, is it a rumor? Is it a confirmation that there would be a spin-off that's the two of them and their adventures, like a prequel? Yeah,
them in the war they talk about, because that's a change in this, is their war heroes.
Yes, and Gaston is referred to as captain by Maurice in the movie as well.
Maurice is another thing I really like.
I love Kevin Kline's performance, yes. So
I do feel like that he was giving about 80%. But same with Emma Thompson. But like an 80% Emma Thompson or Kevin Kline performance is still something I really like to see.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Kevin Kline's performance quite a bit. I thought he was one of the best ones out of everyone.
Going back to Gaston and LeFou, there were a few things. Remember I was talking about the only white actor in Aladdin was going to get a spin-off of his. That's the prince.
Oh yes.
Who's like very weird.
Mm-hmm.
That one was very much everyone went no.
Yeah.
We don't want anything with him. I think with this one, everyone kind of went okay. I think it was met with the same, enthusiasm that people had coming out of this movie. Okay, if you want to do that.
Yeah.
I will tell you. When I first watched this, I was really resistant to liking Gaston because at that point I was a very big Gaston stan. Not nearly as less so now. And so when I watched this, that was one of the few things that to me got better on a second viewing for me was their relationship and their kind of tete-a-tete and back and forth and all that. Little fact about Luke Evans as Gaston. Apparently in real life, he had to wear in this movie, in this role, he had to wear fake teeth to make his canines look smaller because he looks like a vampire. They thought he would look like a vampire. He's got very large canines.
Yeah.
And he has played Dracula, so that's part of it.
Well, there you go.
But I liked their thing. I liked the Gaston song, except for the last little bit. I liked the additions and the dancing. The staging of that song I liked.
I thought the staging of Belle was very cool when they zoom out and you're seeing all the villagers going every which way. The other thing that we liked in this one a little bit more too, I will say, is Belle actually looks people in the eye and says bonjour and says hello.
Yeah.
Whereas we felt in the animated one, she didn't talk to them, they didn't talk to her. It was very much two-sided. No one was trying to reach out. Where in this one, it does seem more that the villagers are against her, and she is genuinely trying, except obviously when it comes to Gaston. When it comes to Gaston, she's trying to let him down easy before she's very much, and he pushes her to a point of her just being like, no, this isn't happening.
That was an interesting thing to me. In the beginning, with the way he confronts her, didn't seem like he grows into a villain a little bit.
Yes, I feel like in the animated version, he pushes his way into her.
Yeah, he's he's more cartoonish. Ha ha ha.
Yes,
but he is also just it's a while before you get to the Gaston looking himself in the mirror. But he's like, hello, Belle. He seems very he's like, do you like that book? And she's like, have you read it? And he's like, well, no. But
books.
At first he just kind of seems like he doesn't know how to talk to her, like a himbo, a word we learned in Emperor's New Groove. Mm-hmm. Just kind of a big dumb galoot. But then eventually he definitely turns into a villain. But speaking of arcs, it's also interesting to see as him and LeFou go separate ways, and LeFou starts realizing he's a bad guy.
I like that LeFou tries to talk some sense into him. There's a part that's very different from the animated version where after Maurice leaves the castle, Belle switches places with her father. He comes back to the village and is telling them everything that happens. No one believes them, and then Gaston stands up for him and says, I believe you, let's go find this beast. He doesn't really believe him, but he's trying to get on his good side because he wants to marry his daughter.
Right.
And so they're searching for hours, and then eventually Gaston ties him to a tree and just leaves him for the wolves. Very much, very bluntly says that. And this is the point where LeFou starts to second guess just backing Gaston, no matter what, and tries to get him to not do that. They leave. Another change in the story is the Enchantress is kind of throughout. The Enchantress shows up, which Ryan doesn't care for. It doesn't really bother me, but the Enchantress shows up in the beginning. We get to see more of that story than we do in the animated.
At the beginning that's the Enchantress, but when you see her throughout the village, it's just Agatha, the local spinster.
So you don't really know too much about her, but she's the one who saves Belle's father.
The local spinster who looks maybe 10 years older than Belle. I will say Belle, I think she's very young when this movie comes out. She doesn't it was a little creepy to me, her and Gaston. And
you said that they're 11 years apart.
They're 11 years apart. But I think
apart.
also she looks younger and he looks older.
Yeah.
So I think the perceived age is even further. Mm-hmm. We're going back to things we like. So
what I was going to say is the Enchantress, I like the change in the story that Maurice comes back to the village and he has got everyone on his side. They're in the tavern. Gaston gets back after him after leaving him in the woods. And all the villagers are like, Gaston, is this true? Did you leave him to die? They're on Maurice's side.
For
And it shows you how effective Gaston is as a villain here, because he turns them all against Maurice very quickly. And then the mob song later on is another really big example of that.
What else do I like? I liked the little bit where they're kind of... I don't exactly see the point of it. It could have been easily cut still, but I do like them going to Paris. He has the Beast has an enchanted book that can take him places, but he doesn't go because he's a beast.
Yeah,
and he takes her to Paris, which is where his father had to abandon her mother because of the plague.
Well, and he says that was the cruelest trick of all by the Enchantress, because he has, this book at his fingertips where he could travel anywhere, but he really can't go anywhere. So it's a constant reminder. I liked that part. I think to switch over to the things we didn't care for, there was a lot of extra songs that I don't think needed to be there. Some of them were full songs, like the Beast has a full song. Some of them were like, let's sing 6 lines. Yeah, a verse or of a song that happens when they go to Paris.
Yes.
The dialogue could stay. You could cut her singing. We don't need it. Mm-hmm. And it happens a couple other times in the beginning when they're dancing. The wardrobe, she has a song when she is a human.
Yes.
And yes, they're dancing to it, but it's another one that it's not a full song, so it kind of feels weird. And there's a couple moments of that throughout. I have it in my notes, but there are a couple other moments like that. And the one bone to pick I have is either use the music from the musical or don't. But don't give me an instrumental version of Home, which is fantastic. Go look it up on Spotify. The musical is... I love the music from the musical.
Yeah, so Home's a song from the musical, and they do like instrumental cues from it,
and then almost spots. Like a reprise.
Yes.
Yeah, don't tease me with the instrumental and then not give me that song.
I don't want to be reminded of a better song than the ones I'm hearing.
And I will say too, I talked about this on the animated episode. I'm obsessed with If I Can't Love Her. I'm so obsessed and like emotionally connected to that song. For a variety of reasons, but I love that song in the musical. And if you're going to give the Beast a song, to me, why not try to work that in or come up with something as emotional? And I don't think they did that here. And like you said, his song is kind of in a weird place because he lets her leave. It's the part of the story where she sees in the mirror that her father's in trouble. He says, go to him. He lets her leave. And then as she's running through the woods, he has this ballad that just doesn't feel
Kills
natural.
The momentum. Yeah.
At that point, I felt like we needed to get back to Maurice.
I liked that. Like, on its own, if what is it? If I love her?
If I Can't Love Her? Have you listened to it?
I've seen that musical, but I just don't remember. Like, I don't key into that. So I remember seeing the musical. I thought I saw the musical. Anyway, I'll listen to it after this for you. But
I'm going to probably listen to the whole soundtrack on Spotify.
But like on its own, I liked the Beast. Like of the new songs, I liked the Beast songs the best.
Yes, that was probably my the one I enjoyed the most out of all of them. Also because it was a full song. Yes. So I think that's part of my issue with the new musical editions is they didn't feel fully fleshed out. I don't know if that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They didn't fully developed, I guess is a better way to say it.
And it's weird to me because Disney owns the rights to those songs. Like, it's Disney's...
And again, if you want to do new music, I have nothing against that. But
No new music.
But don't tease me with something from the musical, and then that gets my brain connected to that. And then, the other thing we should mention is... Emma Watson did a great job.
Well, hold on. Are we done with things we liked? Let's go ahead and finish. Are we done with things we liked?
Yeah, I mean, I already started on the music.
I just want to make sure there's nothing else we want to talk about, because now it's time to go Pete's Dragon on this thing. So let's start with Emma Watson singing.
So Emma Watson singing, I think it is most noticeable in the opening song in Belle, because that is all her.
Yes.
It is heavily, digital auto-tune, I guess is what you call it. I don't know, but it has been digitally altered in some way.
I think she's poorly cast here. I think they went someone went, Belle's a bookworm. You know who else is a bookworm? Hermione from Harry Potter. Let's get her in here. Like, I don't think she's well cast. I don't think she acts super well. She's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, I thought,
she was fine in the part, but it wasn't, I didn't come away.
Aladdin was super well cast.
Yeah.
Like, Cinderella was extremely well cast. And then Belle
Cinderella was also, the movie was beautiful.
Yes.
The movie was breathtakingly beautiful.
We talked about that specifically when they show Belle's dress for Beauty and the Beast, the big
ballroom
scene.
dress, the yellow dress.
And it was a fine dress. It was a fine dress, but like, put some, like, you can tell the difference between someone who, like, they sat down and they went, the dress is what's important. And here they went, okay, we need a gold dress that looks like this. Done. Okay, next scene.
I think thought was put into the dress, but I agree.
Not
agree with
to the
you.
level of the Cinderella dress.
Oh, the Cinderella dress was magical. But yeah, I feel that way about her. I feel that way. We need to talk about the Beast and his makeup a little bit, because you know him as an actor and as someone who's very expressive.
Yes, he's got in Legion. He does, like, you know, some spoilers for Legion. He's the main character, but there's also a good chunk of that show where he's the bad guy. Mm-hmm. In later seasons, and you have to watch him because the whole thing is he's like a mutant with enormously big powers, but he's mentally unstable. So you have to express that, like, you have to, like, look at him and be charmed by him and afraid of him. And I think Dan Stevens has this very expressive, interesting, like, something's going on just below the surface face. What are you looking at?
Is that his name?
Dan Stevens.
Okay.
Now you've got me second guessing it. Let me double check. But just to finish my thought.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why that doesn't sound right, but it could be right. And my brain is
Dan
thinking,
Stevens.
Okay, I apologize.
You're thinking Luke Evans, who has a very similar sounding name.
Gaston.
That's Gaston.
Yes.
But Dan Stevens has such you're meant to think that something, you're a little afraid of him, but you're also charmed by him, and there's all this stuff in his face. The Beast is so plain looking CGI. Just doesn't do anything. And, people made fun of Will Smith's, thick genie, but like this, I mean, at least like it went, oh, there's Will Smith putting on a performance. Whereas this thing, what I read somewhere was that they were going to do him with makeup the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then after they filmed it, they decided, no, let's do the whole thing, the face CGI.
So they didn't have everything mapped out.
They didn't map it out like to do a good motion capture performance. It's basically, they had to just paint over it, and it shows. I think his eyes kind of, merge into the rest of his face. It's just a bad design, and I don't like it. And there's a lot of bad designs in this where the detail is so muddled you can't tell what you're looking at in all the inanimate objects. Like, the best designed inanimate object is Plumette, in my opinion, is Plumette the feather duster, but that's because she's got such an original looking shape.
Well, she's original, and she also doesn't have all the ornate.
Yes.
I think some of the ornate, which is really, like, Cogsworth, when you get up close, is really beautiful because it's so ornate, but you almost lose his facial features in that.
Well, you lose it when you zoom out, and it's like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
And that's the same with Lumiere.
Definitely
same thing.
Lumiere. Now, for some reason, I really liked Cogsworth's, like, motion performance. I think because he looked more like an object than, like, so Mrs. Potts is just a teapot, so she just looks like someone took a teapot and went, we'll get to that in a sec. But she looks like someone just took a teapot and went boop, 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 and just did that, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part. And then Lumiere is just a person. I don't know what Lumiere is complaining about. Oh, my candlestick. You're exactly a person. You just happen to have flames on your hands. That's it. And then, like, another really decorated one is the wardrobe, because her face is a bunch of curtains, and the way it moves is kind of cool.
I do like her design as the wardrobe, and I like the harpsichord. I
like the idea that his teeth are like, he's got bad teeth in real life.
Well, and I didn't even Stanley put that together
Tucci,
to the end.
Little touch of the tooch.
Yeah.
The tooch is loose.
Oh my goodness.
But Cogsworth, like, simultaneously looks like a thing, but also, like, waddles in a way that's very charming to me.
Yeah.
I liked Ian
McKellen's. He does that in the animated version too. Kind of way he waddles.
Yes, but he's a little more mobile because he's fluidly animated. Yeah. This is a little stiff, but still it's between the Mrs. Potts just a teapot and Lumiere as a person who happens to be holding candles in the movie.
I liked the coat rack. I liked that addition. The coat
rack's in the original. He just doesn't have a big part.
Yeah, I feel like he's got a bigger part in this one.
They just use him for the Popeye beating some.
But he's one of the first things that when Maurice walks into the castle, he's a little unsure. He thinks he sees something, but he didn't. And there's some other moments with the coat rack. But one thing that drove me absolutely bonkers, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, is the weird little dangly earring, for lack of I don't know what else it would be.
It's a charm when it's on her, but
on the bottom of the spout of the teapot. And I'm curious if there's some tradition of a charm on teapots that maybe I don't know about. So listeners, if you know the history of teapots.
707, TRPD1. That T this time stands for teapot.
Yeah, give us a call because it drove me nuts. I couldn't stop looking at it. It was super distracting, and I wish it wasn't there.
One thing we definitely need to talk about is the issue of gay representation in this movie. And because one of the issues I had and I read a lot online was Disney, LeFou is the first canonically and out gay main character in a Disney movie, apparently, in 2017. Awesome. But Disney went to great lengths to pat themselves on the back for this representation they had on it.
And to be honest, you don't really... He is fawning over Gaston. There is moments there where he does look at him dreamy like the girls look at him. I will say that, like the women look at him in the town. But there's no concrete... he is or he isn't until the very end.
Can we, before we talk about that, I want to talk about that because that's a drum I've been beating for a while that I think's doing a lot better than it was initially. Any representation is good. Is a step forward. First and foremost.
Yes, agreed.
Not any representation, but good representation. No matter how small, you have to start somewhere.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say any representation is good, and then we deal with the fact that it was only villains for a long time in these movies. But the fact that LeFou is kind of fawning over Gaston, feels a little bit like. I mean, there's a lot of times, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that there hasn't been gay representation in, genre media and stuff for a long time. That anytime there's two male characters who seem to have any affection for each other, gay.
Yeah, and I what I'm saying is I didn't necessarily pick up on that.
Right, but
they didn't do it heavy-handed.
Yes, and that's my thing is our first step we need to do is to get more gay romantic relationships into movies so that if two characters are fawning over each other, yes, they could be gay.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want to get to that place to where it's like the reason I think people do stuff like they see Bucky and Cap being best friends and going, "Oh, they're dating" or whatever, is because where else in most cases are queer audience members going to look to see a relationship they're into, right? Because there's not one actually happening on screen. Mm-hmm. So that's why they gravitate, I think, or did for a while, to relationships like Cap and Bucky and just say...
Well, I also don't want to put words in...
this is what I've read. I'm not pulling this out of nowhere. Okay, this is what I've seen. Okay. And to me, I don't want to sound super heteronormative and be like, Cap and Bucky aren't sure. Maybe they are. But I also want to see stories where LeFou's like, I genuinely care about you, Gaston. And maybe I am gay, maybe I'm not, but I'm not necessarily, that's not a relationship, because I think it's very simple for heterosexual male writers to go, oh, well, if a guy is liking this guy, he must be gay. I think that's very caveman thought of them doing that. And that's what it feels like in this is like.
So what you're saying is you would like to see more... I don't want to use the term bromance, but you would like to see more strong... Platonic love as well as romantic.
Same-sex love. Yeah, and also romantic love.
Yeah, I want to have examples of both.
Yes, I want to see all types so that it's not this binary of dudes are either friends and don't ever don't show emotion, or if they show emotion, it must be all the way where they are romantically inclined for each other. And that's what I think some of the issue is here, is because LeFou, they're like, here's our representation, it's this one guy, he has to be everything, and they have to make everything be a romantic relationship because this is their one shot of doing it right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like in this,
well,
at the end of this, there's two gay men in the village, so naturally they are going to end up together. Whereas what it should be is there's a plethora of all sorts of people in here, and some of them end up together and some of them don't.
The other issue that I had with the ending is they get together by their dancing with women, and then all of a sudden they turn around and it's the two of them. It's LeFou, and I don't know, does that other gentleman have a character name?
I don't think so.
He's one of the three that come to get Maurice, but I don't know that they have names. That
he looks like he's like, I've been in two movies, it's Beauty and the Beast and Les Mis. Like he looks like such a Les Mis background player to me.
But that and they get together and they dance. But what really bothered me was the minute you zoom out, they're nowhere to be found on the dance floor. And that's because Disney can then cut that scene when they release it in countries that don't want that scene to exist. And that infuriated me because I'm like, if you're going to do it, then do it.
Yeah.
If you want to put your toes in the water and you don't want to go full out, at least have them dance in the scene with the ensemble to where we can see it.
So this is, and then later Disney made a big deal about putting a gay character into Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker.
And it was a very similar thing where it was like it happened and it was done. And again,
it was a same-sex kiss that they could very easily edit out of the picture.
Yeah, and again, every step is a step towards more. It's a small step towards more representation or better representation, but at the same time,
Disney doesn't get to. This isn't a win for Disney.
Exactly, yeah, and I feel like
it's a win for I think maybe the queer community. I think it would be a win for them, but Disney doesn't get to be like, look at us, we did this. It's like you did the bare minimum.
Well, and also because they manufactured it in a way that it can be taken out.
Yes.
And that's the issue I have.
Yes.
Is they manufactured it in a way so they can still make their millions of dollars in lots of other places that don't want that to be seen.
And this movie it was like the number one musical. I think it may still be the number one remake.
Wow.
There's a lot of things. Let me look up those facts while you come up with anything else. I feel like for us when it's like, and all the things we didn't like, everything we didn't mention in the beginning because there's just so much.
Well, I can go through my notes as you're looking up, but I think we've covered... we didn't really talk about Be Our Guest, so we should probably talk about that.
Be Our Guest was
Did
supposedly...
you want to look up...
I don't know where it is. You'll just have to believe. It could be a BS fact I'm giving, but... So
Be Our Guest, for me, fell a little flat. It was fine, but I love the animated scene and I love the musical version. So for me, this is the third for me. This comes in third place.
Yes. Emma Watson said this was like she was very bored filming the scene, which I feel like I caught a couple shots of her looking bored.
Now, do you think you would have caught that if you didn't read that?
I don't think I would have been focused on her.
Yeah.
But this is also second viewing, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing we talked about the other day about how this Disney Plus almost ruins this movie is so no, I don't know anybody who watches this movie and doesn't go, man, I wish I saw the original, and now you see it on Disney Plus. Why would anybody ever watch this one? Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I've entered in Beauty and the Beast in Disney Plus. The original's right there. Why would I ever watch this one?
Well, and I would love, listeners, if this is one that you really enjoy, I would love to hear, what you connect with it. Because I think the other piece of that is if you go and see it with your kids or, we do have that memory of seeing it with your parents. So there might be some nostalgia for folks in that way to watch this one over the other one.
And I'd like to say, if you would like to reach out and tell us, I promise this, we are a very, very cool is not the word I'm looking for, but very safe place in this Facebook group, I think, for you to come in and say you like this movie. And, I'm not going to agree with you, but I'm not going to nail you to the cross about it. I'm just going to be like, okay, what did you like? I didn't, but that's fine.
So the other thing that I didn't care for was at the end we basically see the inanimate objects
we need
die.
to talk about this.
And, like, it really left me with this uncomfortable feeling. And I get what they were trying to do, but the last rose petal falls. Gaston and Beast have had their very intense encounter, and Gaston has killed him.
By the way, Gaston in this one falls to his death, but then the one addition I hated was thud.
We heard him thud, which I didn't need that.
No.
But so it's after Gaston has fallen. Belle is holding him. She tells Beast
holding the Beast, not
holding
Gaston.
The Beast. Tells Beast that she loves him. He passes away, like in her arms. He's
Yeah.
lifeless.
She's holding his head, and his eyes, his dead eyes are open, and his head's kind of flopping around.
So he's lifeless, and as that's happening, they're then cutting to the different inanimate objects saying goodbye to one another, and not all of them get to say goodbye. Like Mrs. Potts turns before she sees Chip. She's wondering where Chip is, and then Chip comes afterwards, but she's already no longer human anymore in this object. And the life from all of them, you watch them all just go still.
And it's very much a
and
Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
Yes, and Cogsworth is the one that got me. I think that one and Mrs. Potts out of all of them.
Because he doesn't, he's like, I can't.
And he twitches like he's like the clock has stopped.
And then Lumiere goes, oh no. Like, again, Lumiere gets off light in this movie because he's like, oh no, goodbye. And like, then he turns into a candlestick. And like, before he just looks like a dude.
So that moment for me, I don't know if it affected people as deeply as it did me. And, you know, maybe there's some things going on in my personal life that like made me more deeply affected. No,
okay.
I'm just saying that, you know, we all come with baggage
let's get you on Craniacs and we'll talk psychology.
Oh my gosh. I'm just saying we all come with baggage when we come to watch something and different emotional connections and whatnot. But it really got to me in a way that I was like, I don't know that I needed that scene. I just don't know that I needed that. And in general, it is 2 hours and 10 minutes.
It is 45 minutes longer than the animated version.
And I really don't think it needed to be any longer.
These movies make you understand how tight Disney animated movies are and were. Like how just like a real economy of storytelling. You need that
time to tell the story, fine, but you didn't need that time
Not
to
here.
tell the story. Yeah, I think, I am open to a longer movie if I feel that it needs to be that way for, multiple reasons, but this didn't need that.
One last thing I want to talk about because we're drawing close to our time. If you get towards the end, you might notice that when everyone changes back, there's a lot of lines that Ewan McGregor as Lumiere does off screen.
Oh, that's right.
And the reason why is apparently he recorded it, and then afterwards they went, "Your French accent is terrible." And as he put it, it sounded more Mexican than French.
At least he owned up to the fact that it wasn't right.
Well,
I guess.
It's also funny because he's married to a French woman, so that was part of it. We are almost out of time on this movie. Do we have anything else we have to say?
I don't think so. I think we did a good review of it. I think the second, take two is much better than take one. So take one is going in the vault.
Yes.
But
not the shelf? Or what is it, the drawer?
The drawer? No, I don't, because I'm not going to listen to it, so it's going in the vault.
Okay, exactly.
But I think, if you love Beauty and the Beast, give it a try. If you haven't watched it, give it a try. I'd be curious what you think. Ryan doesn't agree with me. But
I wouldn't suggest it.
But my feeling is, give it a try. But I will say, I think you may come away still wanting to go see the animated version.
Well, guys, we'll be back next week with Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Until then, remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell a friend about our little podcast. Get a hold of us any of the ways we will tell you about in the outro here just in a little bit. But I hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, listeners. Thanks for listening to Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
If you want to tell us your favorite Disney villain and why it's Gaston, send us an email at trprincessdiaries@gmail.com.
Or you can send a tweet about how great Maleficent is to @TRPDiaries.
Check out our Facebook group by searching for Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and many more.
Wherever you hear us, please be our knight in shining armor and give us a 5-star review.
Thanks again, and until next time, remember to always live happily ever after.